found suffering is a training wheel for me. If we look into the nature of why we're suffering and ask some powerful questions in relation to the suffering, there's a paradox there that those questions and the understanding that we receive can be the very thing that breaks us free from suffering, or certainly lessens it, or helps us to understand it a little bit more. Suffering for me has three components. So then if I look at these three components, would be there's a physical level to human suffering. There's an emotional feeling response within human suffering, and there's a psychological level of suffering as well. So if I look at, for example, the health condition I'm facing at the moment, where every time if I lie down on my back, I have a vertigo attack. Lying on my side is fine. And even doing a bit of yoga again this morning has been fine as long as I don't lie down on my back. So it's nothing major, something I can work with. But then there's three components to the suffering created by that, two of which I've worked with over the last few days and actually has given me more peace in my life, actually much more happiness. So those components are: one, there's a psychological component to say a sickness or a problem we're facing in life. So the psychological component you will call in certain types of therapies orphalizing or projection. So the psychological level of our response to physical suffering or illness is worrying about the future, what that might mean, and creating all kinds of dramas that aren't actually real. They're just mental, psychological happenings, and they probably make up most of the suffering in relation to something that's happening in our lives. Where will this lead? What will happen next? And so we create a terrible life for ourselves that doesn't even exist. Then there's a physical component to suffering we may be experiencing. The feeling component is an emotional or energetic response, maybe fear, uncertainty, self-regret, self-hatred, all kinds of things can surface. So interestingly, to me, they seem to create most of the suffering. Not say for example, with this vertigo, the vertigo itself is manageable. It's no major problem. But the thoughts and feeling reactions that we have to our problems create incredible unhappiness. Interestingly, those are the things that we can work with. Actually, they're quite easy to change. Through meditation, we can learn to let go of those kind of thoughts. Instead of worrying about the future, I just watch my breath, or my own practice, I recite a mantra in my mind, and that brings a stillness to my mind. On the emotional level, instead of getting lost and allowing fear to exist to a high extent. Sorry, my brain's a bit fuddled. I'm struggling with language this morning. But we can react to our emotional body very peacefully. We can actually start to choose to let go, to feel peaceful, to feel centered, to feel calm. So we actually have some level of control of our emotional body and our psychological body, which actually is where most of our suffering quite often comes from. So today, whatever you're facing, whatever challenges life is providing to you, you may not be able to change the outside, the physical situation, but you can certainly change the way you're thinking about it, and you can certainly select to feel peaceful, to let go, to surrender. And then interestingly, those type of inner experiences seem to have a profound experience or a profound effect on the physical condition.